Thank you so much for watching WTV News Review. Always a pleasure being your host. My name is Elijah Mwangi. Today we are talking about matters business, to be very specific about insurance industry here in the country. And that's why with me I'm joined by Stephen Karanja, who was the top person on Saturday during the AKI Awards. AKI basically represents Association of Kenya Insurers. So he's going to tell us more about this particular award that you can see here and what this means for him. But most important is to understand how insurance industry works basically and how you can make it big in the industry. Thank you very much for finding time for us. Maybe you should just go straight and you tell what exactly is this award and what does it mean for you?
The Agent of the Year award is an award that is awarded to the top insurance salesperson in the country, comprising all the insurance industries, about 45 of them, and it's awarded on a yearly basis. And so the Association of Kenya Insurers normally evaluate the best insurance person for that particular year who has brought the most business and who has also maintained the highest persistency.
So it's the Association of Kenya Insurers, that is AKI, that comes up with a formula of selecting the best person in those particular categories. Which are some of the criteria, or which is the criteria that they use?
Yes, some of the criteria they use is number one, they use the new business procured within that area. That year. That means how many clients have you introduced into insurance industry for that particular years. It is measured in terms of annualized premium income. For example, if you sold to somebody 10,000 Kenya shillings per month, they multiply that by 12 months. That is what we call the annualized premium. The other criteria is how much of that business that you brought that year is still in the books, that is still paying within that particular year. Number three, they also look at the activity. What's the number of the clients that you've brought within that year in terms of specific individuals. So those are the main criteria that they use to come up with the winners.
And so when I look at your case, for instance, and I'm meant to understand that you had annual premium income of 30 million. How did you get that?
Wow. Mainly, my business I do through referrals. Referrals is my main strategy of acquiring new business. That means I use my existing clients to refer me to their friends and their associates. I use centers of influence to give me more contacts, and these contacts therefore are able to give me quality business. So that is how I managed to do 30.8 million API.
So you basically rely or focus more on referrals.
Exactly.
And now looking at that particular person, there is someone who wants to venture into the insurance industry. But there's always this kind of, I don't know whether it's misconception or whether it's just a perception concerning the insurance sector in Kenya. And people believe that, sales agents, allow me to call them like that, it's a very tough job. But for you, you just made a whooping 30 million, in 1 year.
Yes, it's actually a perception, which is not based on fact. It's based on a historical story.
Yes.
And I would not blame the perception on the people who hold those kind of perception, because the way insurance was introduced in our market in Kenya, it was not introduced by the right people. It used to be a business that is done by people who could probably not get other proper jobs. And therefore, there was very little regulation in it then. And the people that were doing it were not there really, wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And so many of them were there as part-time. Others would use all types of tricks. And so this informed the buying population perception on insurance. But over the years, that perception has completely changed into something different. Now, the people selling insurance are educated people, as you handed the statistic from Aki,
Yes.
that over 50% selling insurance in the entire industry are university graduates.
Sure.
And more than 20% have a diploma in the insurance. And also the regulation has also become more and more tighter. The buying population is also more informed. There is more information out there. So there is very little room for you really not to be deceived.
Not to be deceived. Of course, and we'll be coming to your story because after I read, or listened to your speech, I think all that I can say is that you've really come from a very humble background, so to speak. Now, remember, this is WTV News Review, and we are discussing about Matters Insurance, bearing in mind that on Saturday night, we had the Aki Awards. This is the Association of Kenya Insurers, and they awarded several people, and Stephen Karanja managed to be at the top of them all. So you can always tell us what you think concerning some of these stories that we're discussing here this afternoon, and on Twitter you'll find us at WTVK. Use the hashtag News Review. Let's keep this conversation alive. Now let's go to the challenges part. You've said there is a lot of misconception, misunderstanding of how insurance works, or how insurance is supposed to play. Now, you must be maybe encountering some challenges still, despite that API. You've been in the job market for 13 years. What are some of the challenges that you can say you've really encountered, and how have you gone a step further to overcome the challenges?
I think the main challenge for any serious insurance financial advisor is the fact that we are coming from this perception. You therefore become not only in an insurance advisor, but more so as an educator and what I'll call a civic educator. Because you have now to, first of all, educate the populace on what exactly is insurance, what is the need of insurance, what is the place of insurance in the wider financial planning, before you can now even talk about the specific products.
Okay.
So much of the time is spent doing civic education, so to say, or doing insurance education, other than the actual setting of the same. So that's a very main challenge. Number two challenge is the competing products that are there in the market.
Yes.
Some are well known and some have immediate benefit, as opposed to most of the product in the insurance, which take a little bit time before they start maturing.
Yes.
I'm talking of products like the SACCOs, the investment clubs, the lead estates, and so forth and so forth.
Okay, now that you've talked of other players in the market, I want to be very specific and ask you, how has your brand, what you represent, because you are from Britam, and in fact you carried the day with that brand. So how has Britam enabled you to exactly end up being the winner? If you are maybe representing another brand, do you think you could have scooped the award?
That's an interesting question, and I can tell you the reason why I have carried the flag of this particular brand, that is Britam, for the last 13 and a half years, is for that very reason, that it's the only brand in this industry that has the capacity, the will, and the wherewithal to facilitate a serious salesperson in the insurance industry to reach the highest levels that they can be. I'm talking about the management philosophy, the mission, the vision, the system in the company, are all geared towards facilitating any serious insurance advisor to reach the highest pinnacle of their career. we don't see that much in other insurance companies, so to say. And I can enumerate so many benefits that serious salespeople in Britain
Yes.
access, which are not accessible in other players.
Of course, congratulations are in order for the job well done, and of course, as you've said, the benefits that you're getting from the brand of the company that you represent, I think it's a teamwork.
Probably to also note that Britam is the only insurance company which is a super brand. And that is an independent feedback that has been done.
What do you mean by super brand? Make me understand.
Super brand is like ICO qualification.
Okay.
Yes, there's an independent system that goes into it to evaluate the strength of various brands in the business market.
Yes.
And in the insurance industry, British American for the last for 2 consecutive years
Yes.
was declared a super brand in that. So it becomes much easier when you're doing business with a brand like British American as opposed to many other brands in the market.
Wow, remember you're watching WTV News Review, and today we are discussing matters insurance. That's why we have this particular award. This is meant for Stephen Karanja, who scooped the topmost award as Aki Agent of the Year 2015 in the new business production category. Now we are taking a short break, but don't go far, because when we come back, we'll be going to the details to understand what does it take to sell insurance, and sometimes maybe the background also matters. So we'll be looking at Stephen Karanja, the entrepreneur. Welcome back. We are glad that you're still watching WTV, your Biashara station. And remember, you can always tell us what you think concerning some of the business stories that we are discussing here today. In the first part, we've been looking at the Aki Awards that basically went down on Saturday night at Carnival, because we had the top agents being awarded, and that's why Stephen Karanja is here with us. He scooped the topmost award in the new business production category. Now, let's look at Stephen Karanja, the entrepreneur. Even before you started insurance, I'm meant to understand that you had really struggled with farming. Tell me about that, maybe.
Yes, that's quite true. When I finished high school,
Yes.
I decided, we used to stay for about 2 years before you go to university. And I decided I don't want to stay idle. And I took upon horticultural farming in my native county, Kirinyaga.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing for quite some time until I joined university. And of course, even after, as I went on through university, I also continued to do farming.
Now, what did you study in the university?
I studied development studies and marketing.
Development studies and marketing. So I believe that has gone a long way in terms of trying to sell the policies and all that. But even before you got to the insurance, you've said you were in horticulture. Now, we do a lot of agribusiness shows, by the way, and some of the challenges that farmers say they are struggling with, sometimes we find them maybe far-fetched. What can you say about the agribusiness sector?
It's one of the most unexploited gold mine. And I'm happy today that young people are going into agribusiness. My vision in the agribusiness, as I did it, was I wanted to do my agribusiness in a different way, in a much more modern way, in a much more productive way, as opposed to the old methods of the hoe and djembe, which were not very attractive.
Yes.
And so I had decided that my farm should be a model farm in terms of production. And I'm happy today that this is a sector that is going to grow, because the population is growing. Arable land is diminishing into apartments. Food will become a serious issue. So I'm happy that young people are going there.
One question still remains, because you've said that in fact it's a gold mine. There's a lot of potential in agribusiness. Then why did you leave this agribusiness and you decided, let me join insurance?
Actually, I didn't completely leave agribusiness. I've been always in agribusiness, even as we talk today. In many ways, both in horticulture and also in dairy farming. So it's ingrained in my psyche.
Now let's go to the insurance part, because this forms the basis of our discussion this afternoon. And I want to look at how you started.
Yes.
How exactly did that go? And when did you start? And what was your game plan from onset?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to summarize.
It's okay.
I would say I joined insurance by default, in a way.
Okay.
I happened to meet somebody who was a senior marketing manager at Britam in the course of doing research for NCCK back in Nyeri. And this man, whom I was staying at his house then, realized that there's something in me that can be utilized in doing insurance. I didn't know much about insurance, and the only thing I knew was that my dad had a policy with Kenya National Assurance, which eventually was a government insurance company which eventually collapsed. And this old man took me through what insurance sales is all about, and trained me and ingrained in me the importance of insurance and how it can be an entrepreneurial kind of a business.
Okay.
And by the time I was through with him that week, I had already decided to give it a shot.
Oh, okay.
And he sent me to one of the branches he had started. That was Embu then, Embu branch. And that's when where I started my career in the insurance.
A very humble background,
Absolutely.
or humble beginning, yes, one may say, but for those people that are in insurance, or even people from outside, they keep on saying that sometimes if you want to make it in insurance, maybe you just need to have a strategy that will give you a big break. The big break. When did your big break came?
I think the big break in insurance industry has more to do with the attitude. Many people, why they struggle with selling insurance is because of, one, the attitude, the hangovers of the perception they hear in the past, and number two, not making the decisive decision that this is the career that they want to pursue. Many of them who are even selling insurance now, they have this idea of migrating to better things, not knowing that they are already in the better thing. And so once you don't make that decision that this is the career I want to pursue, then you'll always be a mediocre insurance salesperson.
Let's go to presentation, which is very key in terms of selling insurance. And some people have said, when I went to a certain place and I met some certain people, I presented, that's when I hit it big. So for you, have you ever been in such a forum and you are given a platform to present to a huge number of people, and maybe that's when you can say you really made it big in insurance?
Well, I've done a group presentation. But in our business, it's a very personalized kind of a service. You can only create awareness in a group and probably give them a brief of what exactly that your company do. As far as the other part is concerned, you have to do it in an individual kind of a setting, because every person has specific needs. You cannot address all the needs of every individual in a group. So you have to do presentation which are tailored to the specific individual.
Okay. And of course, as we wind up, two things. We must talk of your lowest moments and your highest moments in the sector. And I want to be very specific, because when I was reading your story online, I came up across this time when insurance agents, or if you call them insurance financial advisor,
Yes.
they were being looked at as second-class citizens in the job market.
Yes,
So maybe you can tell us whether you've ever had any incident that really got you thinking, like, am I really doing the right thing?
Well, when you're beginning in this business, you question so many things, and especially if you go to a client who is hostile to the industry and to the salespeople, you start questioning your decision to join this kind of industry.
Okay.
And some, we call them prospects,
Yes.
are very, cut. They can tell you almost anything until you realize it is not you as an individual
Yes.
that they are opposed to. It is the system and the industry as a whole. Then you're in a better position to bring them on board.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just jump in and maybe push that further. Is there someone who has ever asked you which kind of a job you do, and at one point you are like, really, should I say I'm an agent or?
Yeah, that is true. And probably, let me say, for the first 2 years of
Yes.
my business, I had not come to that point whether at the point where I had decided this is my career. But an incident happened when I went to to be introduced to my in-law.
Oh yes, I read that.
And after many questioning, of course, every father of a lady would want to know what kind of a man want to take his daughter's hand in marriage.
Sure.
And after many questions, one of the critical questions that my father-in-law asked was, "What exactly do you do?
Which kind of a job?
What kind of a job do you do?" And it is at that moment that the reality of what exactly do I do hit home. And after quite a moment of thinking, I decided to actually say exactly the kind of a job that I do. And I told him
Yes.
I sell insurance at Britac then.
Oh yes.
Then we used to call it Britac. And I didn't know what his reaction would be. And finally, luckily for me, he finally said, in actual fact, he had a policy with us,
Yep.
which he has benefited from, and it was a school fees product.
Okay.
But that answered the unanswered question for 2 years. It was like a revelation also to me that actually I sell insurance. And from that moment, I made up my mind that this is the business that I wanted to be.
Well, indeed, I can just call it a leap of faith, because by the time someone asks you that you're coming from a very disadvantaged point
Yes.
of view, but you're in a position to overcome, now finally your highest moments, we must end the show on a high note.
Yes.
What can you talk of your highest moments?
My
in
highest
sector?
moment is on Friday, Saturday night when we had the annual Agent of the Year award.
Yes.
When I was able to scoop the first position in the country, not only in Britain but
Yes.
across the industry. For the last more than 10 years, I've come close to that position. I've been number 3 many times, I've been number 2 many times,
Yes.
but it is until this year when I was able now to get to the very top. It's one of the highest levels that any insurance salesperson can ever go
Yes.
in their career as a salesperson. And so I think to me that is the highest point. And at this point I want to really appreciate all my clients, many of them, or almost 1,000 of them, that have supported me all these years, because without them then you cannot reach to this kind of level in the insurance.
Aki Agent of the Year award, you've said this is, if you may say so, it's one of the highest positions that as an agent one can
Yes,
go.
yes,
So I might be tempted to ask, so what next, because you are there?
Yeah, that's an interesting. Aki Agent of the Year is like the Oscar award in in the insurance industry.
Yes.
And from here now, you can only now go international. We have the Millionaires Club
Oh, okay.
that congregate in Las Vegas every year. for people who have done $1 million in business, in annualized premium,
Okay.
$1 million. So I think now we have to now explore
Yeah.
the international best practices.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, and again, congratulations in order for a job well done. Wish you the very best, even as you pursue the Millionaires Club.
Yes.
We've been talking to Stephen Karanja, the Aki Agent of the Year. He was awarded on Saturday night at Carnival after, being the best in the new business production category. And he was basically shedding light on what it means to be an insurance agent and what exactly it takes to take even your sales to the next level. Now we come to the end of our news review this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. Let's do this again tomorrow.